the Federal Reserve is having another meeting this Friday on Jackson Hole. And so this one's a little bit more anticipated, it seems like, just because, the Fed at this point, it's not an issue of, are they going to raise rates? It's essentially like how much, right? So that's kind of been their move to try to raise interest rates to combat inflation, because we're in a very difficult time, when it comes to, especially like in the United States and globally, where inflation's running rampant. Gas prices are a lot higher than they were a year ago. Food prices are higher. Rent, everything. But I think the latest Fed fund futures showed that there's like a 51% chance of a 50 basis point hike next month. Yeah, like right before the Wednesday's minute release, this past Wednesday, the rate futures had factored in a 75% or 75 basis point rate hike. So, I guess my question is like, what do you think that the Federal Reserve should do at this point? Because in my opinion, it seems like it's more of a supply issue, more so than the monetary policy. Obviously, the monetary policy, printing 60% of the dollars in the past couple of years, as extremely big factor in all of it. But at the end of the day, shutting down the world economy for months and years at a time did a lot more damage, or seemingly did damage that is like carrying over. And it seems like the Fed's almost in between like a rock and a hard place. Like, how do you think that they should go about this situation, and like how do you view of the job that they're doing?
I mean, look, they are in a tough position because, dude, they continue raising rates, man, and I think it's inevitable because they have to control inflation or get inflation under control, and I don't think it's going to be a quick process. But if they continue raising rates, they're just going to crash the U.S. economy, which is where I believe this is heading. I honestly think things are going to get a lot worse. I think we had a summer rally. The stock market had a summer rally, and I think that like calmed a lot of people. But if you look at 2008, you look at the .com crash, dude, there was like 50% rallies, 60% rallies, like so I think that I think we already are in a recession. It's funny how they try to redefine it, but I think we already are in one. Now, the question is how bad things are going to get. But if you look, for example, at the energy situation in Europe, and it was totally caused because it was the energy policies that they picked, those politicians over there. Dude, like it's like they're paying a record amount for their energy, and then you just like, okay, what does this have to do with the economy? How do you think the factories pay for the power, right? So it all trickles down. Not to mention the record inflation. I think the UK had over 10%, right? And their only weapon to this is to cool down the economy, to cool down spending. But if the economy is already in a terrible spot, dude, that's the recipe for disaster. I think we all feel it in our guts, but I think it's hard to zoom out towards the macro level. Now, how do I think they've been handling it? Dude, it's central banking. All central planning fails. Like it always does, dude. Like it can't be that some dude in DC literally gets to decide whether the US economy is booming, whether it's not booming, based on how much money they're printing, based on what is that? That's insane to me. Like it's insane. But I mean, so people like that sometimes because people would rather have this centrally planned thing of Frankenstein than endure business cycles. They would rather lessen the blow. But I mean, it's very short sighted because then you need the money printer. If you have the money printer, then people that don't have the means to save in assets, like the lower and middle classes, dude, they're just going to continue getting poorer because the rich are just going to get richer because they have their money in assets, which benefit from the money printing, right? But the lower middle classes don't have that. So it's like, is trying to get rid of market cycles really worth it? If you have a central bank in your country is halfway to a communist country already. It's the starting right there, right? So communism always ends up one way. You know, everyone has their political ideology, and it's like, oh, socialism is whatever. Dude, look, fine. I'm not trying to bash the left or do anything like that, but name me one successful communist country. Name me one. Now, name me one successful capitalist country. It's not equal. It's not perfect, but it's night and fucking day. It's night and day, right? So I'm not a fan of central planning. I think it falls on its face. Central planning will never be better than millions upon millions of individuals making their own decisions. And then that provides us a price signal to manufacturers, to entrepreneurs. It's like what to make, what not to make. There's this one guy in DC that is literally running the US economy to the point that he was able to print 40 to 60% of the dollars that have ever existed. And then that led to other people's savings being diluted. The housing cost increased 100% over the period of 2021, 2022. Fuck that. It's a terrible system. Now, connect this with what I was talking about with the shitcoining, right? Ethereum will end up exactly the same because the issue, right, is that there's a group of people that think they know what's best. But time and history has shown no. So Bitcoin, what Satoshi did was incredible because he basically said, listen, the monetary policy is set in stone. And in order to change it, you need to convince everyone in the network to run what you're running. Good luck. So he figured out how to take the monetary policy out of the hands of human beings. Now, the fault with the central bankers and the central planners is that they believe that they could do this best. Okay, also, let's look at history. It's not a coincidence that the most violent century in human history happened to be the century of central banking. The largest crashes in the economy, 1929, 1980, 1970s, 2009, 92 or 99, all under central banking. So they have no legs to stand on, bro. They have no legs to stand on. There is absolutely no reason why this thing needs to exist. So they're all playing pretend. Powell's playing pretend. Do you know that Powell, he was a lawyer? He's not even a banker. He's a lawyer. So a lawyer is running the US economy. And look how it's ended up. And everybody is surprised by the results. What did you think was going to happen? And the reason the politicians are okay with this is because they have a money printer. It's like, oh, we want to go to war. We want to send 600 billion to Ukraine. We want to send 300 billion. We want to pay, what the Biden administration did to buy votes before the midterms. We want to pay off all student loans. Okay. Print it. So why would politicians be against this? They love that shit. The central bankers fucking love that shit. So it's this like secret alliance. Now with Bitcoin, I hope that it wakes enough people up where they're just kind of like, yo, screw this racket. Screw this. Keep your political money. I don't care about Joe Biden. I don't care about Donald Trump. I'm going to opt out. I'm going to put my money in Bitcoin. 21 million. Can't be debased. Can't be easily confiscated. You guys could have fun with that, and I'm going to do me. But it's funny because they can't have enough. They can't have a lot of people doing that because it just wakes people up, wakes people to the scam, and it takes people out of the system. Christine Lagarde even said it. You can't have an escape valve, and Bitcoin is this escape valve that it's like not only could they can't shut it off, they can't take it away from people. So it's like they're just trying to like plug shit. Dude, I think I brought this up earlier. The United Nations released a report that said we must de-incentivize the adoption of cryptocurrencies in developing countries. Oh man, they're fucking scared, dude. They're terrified. Yeah, those are my thoughts on Powell.
Yeah, I mean, like 100%, right? They're 100% scared of Bitcoin and everything that it does, and I think when it comes down to it, all of these entities, like you said, they're centralized. It's a few people believing that they can make decisions for many, right? And the thing that Bitcoin mastered, which I don't know if can ever really be replicated, is the true decentralization of it. And the digital scarcity. That was the first thing that the theory behind the internet was like everything was widespread and everything like you could essentially make up something out of thin air. But Satoshi did something that I don't know if it can ever be replicated. And like you said, I think it's interesting how just one guy who Powell isn't even an elected official, so even like you said, right left, he was the Fed chairman under Trump, and he reinstated under Biden. And so at the end of the day, he's played both sides. And you want to get reelected if you're Powell's to stay in power, and so you're going to do whatever the president or that party essentially wants you to do, right? So it's kind of it's a tough place to be in, and I don't envy his position at all. But it seems like you said, he's just kind of pulling these strings, and the market and the U.S. economy just overall, like, they react to it. Just like you said, there is some short rallies, and I think it's interesting that we saw the market, the CPI print of last month was 8.5%, which the expected or whatnot was like 8.7 or 8.9 or something. So it beat expectations, but it was still like 8.5% CPI, which is a manipulated number, right? And the market rallied that day. So it doesn't really seem to make any sense to me as to what all this is going on. And it's just like you said, just one guy kind of controlling the overall economy. And you brought this up, but President Biden is now announcing that there's student loan forgiveness, and the deal behind that is there's 10K is going to be removed of student loans of anyone that makes less than 125K, and then 20K off of loans for anybody that received a Pell Grant. And like you said, it seems like it's conveniently timed to right before midterm elections, or right during that time. So it seems like these politicians are just kind of pulling these strings, but at the end of the day, like the average American's the one that gets hurt, because where is this money going to come from, right? So now that 10K, most of these student loans are federal student loans issued out by the government, so they're going to have to get their money back somehow. So it's either going to be come at you from taxes or some other way. And they just announced as well that they're like doubling the size of IRS agents for audits. So I mean, it just seems like all this writing's on the wall, and they're basically laying out the plan right in front of you of how they're going to do it. They're going to start to come at you, whether it's come at you for trying to ban Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, and just tax the shit out of you, essentially. So I don't know. I mean, I just really, like you said, I think that there's going to be a bloody way out of this. And I think that there's no way that the average American can really win unless they opt out and kind of find their way towards Bitcoin.
Yeah. Dude, Bitcoin is the hope, man. The IRS thing was just like a slap in the face, because it's like we caused inflation because we printed too much money, but you peasant, you must pay. Like it's the most comical. Oh, and then they have the gall to call it Inflation Reduction Act. Like, bro, if there isn't a better example as to why we must end central banking, I don't know what. Like, central banking, I really, it's, yeah, central banking, politicians and crow, but it's like an evil alliance. It's just, if you just simplify, you say separate money from state. That's really what needs to happen. Like, no politician should have the ability, by passing a law that says we can print an unlimited amount of money that everyone else has to work for, and in the process of printing all that money, it debases everyone else's money. No politician should have that power. No human being should have that power, which is what Bitcoin figured out. Hey, If you want one Bitcoin, you have to buy it, earn it, and mine it. Doesn't matter if you are Nancy Pelosi. Does not matter. You gotta earn it, you gotta buy it, or you gotta mine it. It means you gotta spend proof of work, bro. Costs energy, costs money, costs time, right? Can't be that they're just creating thing, and it's time theft. They're stealing time and energy from everybody else. It's this like self fulfilling fucking prophecy. Now, here's the thing, right? Because these people are maniacs. If they give up that power and they just let Bitcoin win, they could benefit from it too. But no, they want to be totalitarians at the top of the pyramid, dictating how everyone else should run their lives. It is the most fucking insane bullshit I've ever seen in my life. And Bitcoin doing its thing, just exposing United Nations. You're like, oh, the United Nations, like they're good people. Nope. The United States government, good people. Nope. It's like all the European Central Bank can't be that bad. Nope. Like it's like exposed after exposed after exposed after exposed. It exposes what they really want. They don't want the United Nations is prosperity for all, human, equality, all that shit. It's like, no, bro. Prosperity for all as long as it's under your system. If it's prosperity for all under another system, no, you can't have that. Like it is fucking crazy. It is crazy. I suspect it's gonna get worse. I suspect 5-10 years, like these next 5-10 years, you're gonna see shit that you could have never imagined. There's this really famous saying that says there's decades that nothing happened, and then there's years that decades happen. And right now we are in the beginning to middle of the fourth turning. The institutions that we used to trust are collapsing. Trust in them are collapsing. And I think on the other side, you're going to really see freedom of which humanity has never experienced before. It's going to be insane. But a lot of people stand to lose a lot because of that freedom. And it's a book that I always recommend to people is if you want to know what's going to happen, and it's been extremely accurate in predicting all this, read the book The Sovereign Individual. It was so head on with its predictions, and it used the theory of violence, right? So the way that the system is currently set up is the countries, nation states, however you want to call it, they've set up a system that is so effective at extracting wealth from its populace, from its most productive citizens. And before Bitcoin, they didn't really have a choice but to put up with it. Now with the internet, where it's like, look, me and you are streaming. I don't know where you are. You don't know where I am. We're, hundreds of miles away from each other. Fine. You could do work like that now. Now there's money that you could do that. So the location necessity that was an absolute 10, 20 years ago, not anymore. And this is just going to keep getting better, right? And now, let's say I'm in New York that has a crazy income tax. Peace. I'm going to go to a state that has lower income tax. So, and that's just going to keep happening, right? And fine, the poor people, the middle class, maybe they won't be able to move because they can't afford it. But the people that actually have the money, the people that actually own the companies, the wealthiest, and they'll just leave. So that will force governments to realize, holy crap, we can't overtax because they're just going to leave. We have to incentivize these people to come. So instead of this serfdom relationship that governments have with their citizens today, I believe we're going to see a more customer relationship with citizens. You're already starting to see this a little bit. Texas, Florida, millions of migrants from New York and California, they just left. Tons of people coming to Puerto Rico because of the tax incentives over here. That's what I'm talking about. So New York and California, they're just going to squeeze. And fine, they're going to more collectivist approaches, more redistribution approaches. And it's funny because people don't learn their lessons. Look what happened in Eastern Europe. People were literally willing to get shot to escape communism. in search of economic opportunity, in search of freedom. And now you can memorize a 12-word phrase and you could bring everything with you. They're so fucked. They don't even know it yet. They don't even know how fucked they are. Right now, they're in this bargaining phase where it's like, no, we could make the old system like we can make the new system like the old system. It's like, nope, nope, that's not how it works. So, but dude, they're very well capitalized. They have a lot of people believing into this idea of nationalism, nation statism, whatever. And this idea that the US government is represents the people. No, 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 no. The US government represents the US government. Period. Doesn't represent jack shit but itself. It ensures its own survival. It's a government run by the employees. It's not a government run by the people like we've been advertised. It's a government run by the employees. Now, with Bitcoin, if we do separate money from state, how are you going to go to war if you don't have a money printer? You actually have to convince people to put up the money so that you can go to war. Oof. Good luck. Good luck. Did you know that in the Middle Ages, the wars would end because the king would run out of money? They didn't have a money printer with the gold. How are you going to do that? It's the same concept, right? So, and I believe that we're going to see all of this in our lifetime. You seem young. So you still got maybe 40, 50 years ahead of you, 60 years. Dude, we're going to see this shit. And it's going to be like the world that we're heading into has absolutely no connection to the world that we grew up in. You know, the 90s, 2000s, you know, it's like America and whatever. I love what America represents, but I strongly dislike the US government. And I think that the fundamental issue with it is that that fiat has corrupted the way that it works. It misaligned the incentives, and I think that's really what we're witnessing now. We're seeing, you know, the collapse of an old bureaucratic institution that has grown to such a size that it's really self-serving and it's parasitic in nature, man. So I don't know. I went on a little bit of a rant, but yeah.